All right, welcome back. We're diving into something a little different this time.
Oh,
Yeah, so we've got these two audio sessions from this dating coach guy named Gary Brodsky.
okay.
And the name of his program is,
Yeah.
it's a bit provocative, to say the least. It's called How to Date Women Like a Prick.
Wow. That's certainly attention grabbing.
I know, right? Like, prick isn't exactly the first word that comes to mind when you think about successful dating.
Not really, no.
But that's kind of what makes this so interesting, right? We're going beyond the usual dating advice and really trying to understand where this guy's coming from.
I see.
Why would someone advocate this approach? And who on earth would actually listen to it?
Yeah, to really understand Brodsky's perspective, I think we need to consider the context.
Okay.
He's basically like waging war on traditional dating.
Really?
Yeah, all
Yeah.
that stuff about men being polite, asking for permission, all those unwritten rules, he thinks they're setting men up to fail.
Ah,
He
interesting.
seems to think that nice guys are totally clueless when it comes to women.
Is that right?
He even goes so far as to say that women secretly crave pricks.
Pricks.
Yeah, those guys who are confident, assertive, always in control.
I mean, is there any truth to that?
Well, research on attraction does suggest that confidence is a desirable trait. It often signals things like social status, competence,
Okay.
even sense of security, which can be attractive.
Yeah.
But what Brodsky does is he takes this idea and kind of stretches it
Stretches it how?
to a pretty extreme, and some might even say unhealthy level.
So let's get into some of the advice he gives. We'll call it unconventional for now.
Right.
He starts talking about compliments. And I'm not talking about your typical nice eyes kind of compliment.
Yeah.
He suggests saying things like, Aphrodite pales in your shadow.
Aphrodite pales.
Yeah, I mean, why go so over the top? Is it just shock value?
There might be an element of that.
Really?
Trying to stand out in a crowded dating pool,
Yeah.
make a memorable impression.
Oh,
But it also fits into this larger theme of buildness that kind of runs through all of his advice.
boldness.
He's essentially saying, forget subtlety, make grand gestures, even if those gestures come across as, well, insincere or just plain bizarre.
And then it gets even more intense. He actually suggests emailing a woman, and I'm quoting here, I just jerked off thinking of you.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, is that supposed to be attractive?
That brings up a really important question about where the line is between confidence and just being crude.
Right.
Brodsky seems to think that pushing boundaries is always the best way to go. But this example, this clearly crosses into the territory of disrespect.
Yeah, I mean, it objectifies the woman, reduces her to a sexual fantasy.
Exactly. I can't imagine that going over well with most people.
Have you ever heard of that actually working, though?
There's such a wide range of preferences out there, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
What one person finds appealing, another might find totally offensive. But there's a big difference between being confident and assertive and being disrespectful and objectifying. And Brodsky, he seems to blur that line a lot.
So another example he has is he talks about ditching a boring date.
What?
Yeah, like just leaving her stranded at the restaurant.
Seriously?
Yeah, ethically, I don't even know where to begin with that one.
That's awful. It's so disrespectful.
It really is.
And it just plays into these harmful stereotypes
Yeah.
about men treating women like they're disposable.
Like they don't have feelings or, even thinking about their safety.
Exactly.
It's funny, for someone who stresses confidence so much, it seems like a lot of his advice is coming from a place of insecurity.
Insecurity.
Yeah, he keeps talking about how men have become wimps because of
Yeah.
societal pressure and the media. Interesting.
Is there any truth to this idea of a masculinity crisis, do you think?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of discussion right now about what it means to be a man in today's world,
Right.
especially with shifting gender roles and expectations.
I think some men might be feeling a sense of confusion or a lack of direction.
Oh, okay.
And Brodsky, I think he's tapping into that uncertainty.
So what's his solution?
He says, reclaim your prick power,
Prick power.
which of course is a vast oversimplification of a very complex issue.
So he's basically selling this fantasy of going back to a time when men were supposedly more dominant, more in control.
That's a big part of his appeal.
Is it?
He's presenting this idealized version of manhood,
What do you mean?
where men are calling the shots and women are responding in predictable ways.
It's all very strategic.
Very much so.
Like when he says you should never ask for a second date because it makes you look needy.
Oh, okay.
Instead, he says, let the woman chase you.
Really?
Is he really trying to promote healthy relationships here, or is this just a game?
I think the problem is that it promotes manipulation and distrust. It turns dating into this
There's a
competition.
power struggle.
Yeah, instead of an opportunity to make a genuine connection with somebody.
And all the authenticity goes right out the window.
Completely.
He does talk about respect, but it's a very specific kind of respect.
How so?
It's all about men as protectors and women desiring strength.
That's where things get really interesting, because he's kind of intertwining respect with dominance.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
can those two things even coexist?
That's a great question. What does a healthy power dynamic even look like when you're dating someone? In a healthy relationship, power is balanced.
Okay.
Both partners should feel safe and valued. It's not about one person always being in control.
Yeah.
It's more about sharing decisions, open communication,
Makes sense.
respecting each other's needs and boundaries.
So Brodsky's idea of men always needing to be in control, that actually works against building a truly respectful relationship.
Exactly. It creates an imbalance where one person's always asserting their dominance.
And the other's expected to submit.
Right. And that's not a recipe for a healthy, fulfilling relationship.
Yeah, this is a lot to think about. But I have to admit, even though his approach is, while out there, it does raise some interesting questions.
I agree.
I mean, is there some truth to the idea that confidence is attractive?
Possibly.
Could someone take what he's saying and apply it in a, I don't know, a more nuanced, healthier way?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Because confidence, when it comes from a place of self-awareness and respect, it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's about being comfortable with who you are, not trying to fit into some rigid, outdated definition of what a man should be.
So how do you project that kind of confidence?
That's what we'll talk about in part 2.
Without resorting to all these over-the-top tactics that Brodsky recommends.
Right.
Okay. I think that's something a lot of people would be interested in hearing about.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
So we ended part 1 talking about how to have that genuine confidence
Right.
without all those manipulative tactics that Brodsky's always going on about.
Yeah, and I keep coming back to that. Like, why would any guy actually think this stuff works?
Well, think about who he's talking to.
Who?
Guys who are feeling frustrated, maybe even disillusioned with the whole dating scene.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
Men who feel like they've tried being the nice guy and gotten nowhere.
Right, so they're looking for a different approach, something that promises them results.
Exactly. Even if it means, bending the rules a little bit.
So Brodsky's tapping into this desire for a shortcut,
I think so.
a way to hack the system and bypass all the, I don't know, complexities of modern dating.
Yeah, he's basically presenting this prick attitude as like a secret weapon.
Forget all that messy emotional stuff he says. Just follow these steps and you'll get the girl.
Right. And for someone who's feeling lost and insecure, that message can be pretty tempting.
It gives them a sense of control, maybe?
Yeah, in a situation that often feels pretty chaotic and unpredictable.
But isn't that a false sense of control? I mean, relationships aren't a game you can just win by following some instructions.
You're absolutely right.
So Brodsky's reducing human interaction to what? Like a series of transactions?
Very much.
And he's ignoring all the important stuff like empathy, vulnerability, real connection.
All the things that actually matter when you're trying to build something lasting.
And he talks about women like they're, I don't know, programmable robots.
Oh, yeah.
Responding the same way every time to certain stimuli. It's kind of messed up.
I think that's one of the most disturbing parts of his whole philosophy,
Yeah.
It dehumanizes women completely, turns them into objects to be conquered.
Or manipulated.
It's really not okay.
And it reinforces all those harmful stereotypes about men needing to be these unemotional, dominant figures.
That's right. It's like this myth that men have to suppress their feelings in order to be successful with women, which is just not true at all.
So it's all a performance.
Yeah, like he's encouraging a performance of masculinity.
Instead of encouraging men to just be themselves.
To embrace who they really are, yeah.
And he's promoting such a narrow definition of what a man should be.
So outdated, all about power and control.
It's funny, this reminds me of a friend of mine who actually tried to follow some of Brodsky's advice.
Oh, no.
It was a total disaster. I just felt so forced and inauthentic.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I mean, you can't just put on an act.
Even if it's based on this so-called prick persona.
And expect it to lead to any kind of real connection.
Exactly.
So if Brodsky's way is a dead end, what's the alternative? What does a healthy approach to confidence and, success in dating really look like?
Well, that's something we can unpack more in part 3.
Okay.
But I think a good starting point is to really challenge the assumptions behind Brodsky's philosophy.
What assumptions?
Well, like, one of his biggest assumptions is that dating is this inherently adversarial thing.
Okay.
That men and women are on opposite sides, locked in a battle of the sexes.
Right, like they're enemies.
Which means men need to be constantly strategizing, manipulating, just to get a woman's attention.
So his whole mindset basically undermines the whole possibility of trust and respect.
Totally. It just sets you up for failure.
And he assumes that all women want the same thing.
Oh, yeah, like this mythical prick who's going to sweep them off their feet.
By being, what, dominant and bold?
Exactly. Like, the women have no minds of their own and just fall for these, like, cheesy tactics.
It's kind of insulting, actually.
It is. It plays into all those tired, harmful stereotypes.
And on the flip side, he assumes that all men are insecure and need this prick attitude to cover it up.
Like, they can't be vulnerable or show their true selves.
Right, so it's not just his advice that's problematic, it's his whole view of the world.
His whole framework is flawed.
So we need to challenge those assumptions.
Absolutely.
And offer a more, I don't know, nuanced perspective on dating and relationships.
A more realistic perspective, maybe.
Okay, I'm ready for a more nuanced perspective. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Gary Brodsky's How to Date Women Like a Prick.
Right?
I think we've pretty thoroughly dissected his approach and talked about why it's so problematic.
All the assumptions behind it.
Yeah, and how it really goes against building healthy, genuine relationships.
Definitely.
So now I'm ready to talk about what a healthy approach to dating actually looks like.
Okay, yeah.
If Brodsky's way is the wrong way, how do you cultivate real confidence, build relationships based on mutual respect?
I think it starts with being self-aware.
Okay.
Understanding your own values, what you bring to the table,
Yeah.
and what you're really looking for in a partner.
So you're saying ditch the playbook, be yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Authenticity is so important, you know?
Yeah.
People are drawn to that, to someone who's genuine, not afraid to be themselves.
Brodsky talks a lot about confidence, which I get,
Yeah.
but his version of confidence seems more like, I don't know, arrogance.
Oh, yeah.
Like you have to be the loudest guy in the room, dominate every conversation.
Right. Never show any vulnerability.
Is that really what women want?
True confidence isn't about putting others down or pretending to be someone you're not.
Makes sense.
It's about knowing your worth, respecting yourself, and treating other people with that same respect.
So leading with kindness and empathy, rather than trying to control the situation.
Exactly.
That makes a lot more sense to me.
And it's important to remember that healthy relationships are a two-way street.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about winning or conquering, but building something together.
As equals.
Exactly. You're both learning from each other, listening to each other's needs.
You know, Brodsky's whole thing is so focused on getting women into bed.
It's true.
He reduces the whole dating experience to like this transactional pursuit of sex.
Yeah, and I think that's where his philosophy really misses the mark.
That's kind of sad, actually.
It is, because meaningful relationships are built on so much more than just physical attraction.
Like what?
Shared values, emotional intimacy, intellectual connection, the willingness to grow and evolve together.
Sounds like instead of focusing on all these tricks and tactics, people should be working on their emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. Learning to communicate effectively, understanding your own emotions.
Being able to empathize with other people.
Exactly. Being present, being a good listener. Those are the skills that really matter.
And that takes time, right? Self-reflection, there's no quick fix, no magic formula like Brodsky's trying to sell.
Nope. It's about being willing to do the work, to challenge your own biases, and approach dating with an open mind and heart.
To ditch the prick attitude.
Yes.
Embrace authenticity, empathy, and respect.
Those are the things that matter.
That's a dating philosophy I can get behind.
Me too.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, we have.
Big thanks to our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into the wild world of dating advice.
It's been a journey.
It has. And remember, when it comes to dating and relationships, there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
That's so true.
Trust your instincts, be true to yourself, and don't be afraid to challenge advice that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, if it feels inauthentic or disrespectful, it probably is.
Okay, that's all the time we have for today, but we'll be back soon with another deep dive into some fascinating topic.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep diving deep and keep seeking knowledge.